Okay, so now we're going to find out some backstory. First time I met Crenshaw was about 3 years ago, right after first grade ended. It was early evening, and my family and I had parked at a rest stop off the highway. I was lying on the grass near a picnic table, gazing up at the stars blinking to life. I heard a noise, a wheels-on-gravel skateboard sound. I sat up on my elbows. Sure enough, a skater on a board was threading his way through the parking lot. I could see right away he was an unusual guy. He was a black and white kitten, a big one, taller than me. His eyes were the sparkly color of morning grass. He was wearing a black and orange San Francisco Giants baseball cap. He hopped off his board and headed my way. He was standing on 2 legs just like a human. "Meow," he said. "Meow," I said back, because it seemed polite. He leaned close and sniffed my hair. "Do you have any purple jelly beans?" I jumped to my feet. It was his lucky day. I just happened to have 2 purple jelly beans in my jeans pocket. They were a little smushed, but we each ate one anyway. I told the cat my name was Jackson. He said, "Of course it is." I asked him what his name was. He asked what did I want his name to be. That was a surprising question. But I already figured out he was a surprising guy. I thought for a while. It was a big decision. People care a lot about names. Finally, I said, "Crenshaw would be a good name for a cat, I think." He didn't smile because cats don't smile. But I could tell he was pleased. "Crenshaw it is." I don't know where I got the name Crenshaw. No one in my family has ever known a Crenshaw. We don't have any Crenshaw relatives or Crenshaw friends or Crenshaw teachers. I'd never been to Crenshaw, Mississippi, or Crenshaw, Pennsylvania, or Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles. I'd never read a book about a Crenshaw or seen a TV show with a Crenshaw in it. Somehow, Crenshaw just seemed right. Everybody in my family was named after somebody or something else. My dad was named after his grandpa. My mom was named after an aunt. My sister and I weren't even named after people. We were named after guitars. I was named after my dad's guitar. It was designed by a manufacturer called Jackson. My sister was named after the company that made my mom's guitar. My parents used to be musicians. Starving musicians is what my mom called it. After I was born, they stopped being musicians and became normal people. Since they'd run out of instruments, my parents named our dog after a famous singer called Aretha Franklin. That was after Robin wanted to name her fairy princess Cutie Pie, and I wanted to call her Dog. At least our middle names came from people and not instruments. Orson and Marybelle were my dad's uncle and my mom's great-grandma. Those folks are dead, so I don't know if they're good names or not. Dad says his uncle was a charming curmudgeon, which I think means grumpy with some niceness thrown in. Honestly, another middle name might have been better. A brand new one that wasn't already used up. Maybe that's why I like the name Crenshaw. It felt like a blank piece of paper before you draw on it. It was an anything is possible kind of name. I don't exactly remember how I felt about Crenshaw that day we met. It was a long time ago. I don't remember lots of stuff about what happened when I was young. I don't remember being born or learning to walk or wearing diapers, which is probably not something you want to remember anyway. Memory is weird. I remember getting lost at the grocery store when I was 4, but I don't remember getting found by my mom and dad who were yelling and crying at the same time. I only know that part because they told me about it. I remember when my little sister first came home, but I don't remember trying to put her in a box so we could mail her back to the hospital. My parents enjoyed telling people that story. I'm sorry, I have to laugh. I'm not even sure why Crenshaw was a cat and not a dog or an alligator or a Tyrannosaurus Rex with 3 heads. When I try to remember my whole entire life, it feels like a Lego project where you're missing some of the important pieces. Like a robot minifigure or a monster truck wheel. You do the best you can to put things together, but it's not quite like the picture on the box. It seems like I should have thought to myself, wow, a cat is talking to me. And that is not something that usually happens at a highway rest stop. But all I remember thinking is how great it was to have a friend who liked purple jelly beans as much as I did. And he was young, so I guess he was willing to accept him the way he was. A couple of hours after the mysterious jelly bean appearance during cereal ball, my mom gave Robin and me each a grocery bag. She said they were for our keepsakes. A bunch of our things were going to be sold at a yard sale on Sunday, except for important stuff like shoes and mattresses and a few dishes. My parents were hoping to make enough money to pay some back rent and maybe the water bill too. Robin asked what a keepsake was. My mom said, "It's an object you treasure." Then she said things don't really matter as long as we love each other. I asked what were her keepsakes and my dad's. She said probably their guitars would be at the top of the list. And maybe books, because they were always important. Robin said she would bring her Lyle book for sure. My sister's favorite book in the world is The House on 88th Street. It's about a crocodile named Lyle who lives with a family. Lyle likes to hang out in the bathtub and walk the dog. Robin knows every word of that book by heart. Later, at bedtime, my dad read the Lyle book to Robin. I stood at her bedroom door and listened to him reading. He and my mom and Robin and Aretha were all squished on her mattress. It was on the floor. The wooden parts were going to be sold. "Come join us, Jackson," my mom said. "There's lots of room." My dad is tall and so is my mom, and Robin's mattress is tiny. There wasn't any room. "No, I'm good," I said. Looking at my family, all there together, I felt like a relative from out of town, like I belonged to them, but not as much as they belonged to each other. Partly that was because they looked so much alike, blonde and gray-eyed and cheerful. My hair and eyes are darker, and sometimes so is my mood. Emptied out, it didn't look like Robin's room anymore, except for her pink lamp and the marks on the wall that showed how much she had grown. And the red spot on the carpet where she'd spilled cranberry apple juice. Robin was practicing her t-ball batting, and she got a little carried away. "Swish, swash, splash, sploosh," read my dad. "Not sploosh, Daddy," Robin said. "Smoosh, splish, swash?" "Stop being silly," she said. She poked him in the chest. "It's swoosh, swoosh, I tell you." I said that I didn't think a crocodile would enjoy taking a bath. I just read a whole library book about reptiles. My dad told me to go with the flow. "Did you know that you can hold a crocodile's jaws closed with a rubber band?" I asked. My dad smiled. I wouldn't have wanted to have been the first person who tested that theory. Robin asked my mom if I had a favorite book when I was little. She didn't ask me because she was pouting about my bathtub comment. My mom said, "Jackson really liked A Hole is to Dig. Remember that book, Jackson? We must have read that to you 1,000,000 times." "That's more like a dictionary than a made-up story," I said. A brother is to help you, my mom said, which is a line from the book. "A brother is to bug you," said Robin, which is not a line from the book. "A sister is to drive you slowly insane," I replied. The sun was beginning to set. The sky was tiger-colored with stripes of black clouds. "I have to get my stuff ready for the yard sale," I said. "Hey, stick around, dude," said my dad. "I'll read A Hole is to Dig. Assuming you can find it, that is." "I'm way too old for that book," I said, even though it was the first thing I put in my keepsakes bag. "Lyle, one more time. Please, 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 please." "Dad," I asked, "did you buy some purple jelly beans?" "Nope." "Then where did they come from? The ones in Robin's T-ball cap. It doesn't make any sense." "Robin went to Kylie's birthday party yesterday," said Mom. "Did you get them there, Sweet Pea?" "No. Kylie hates jelly beans, and anyway, I told you they were magic, Jackson." "There's no such thing as magic," I said. "Music is magic," said Mom. "Love is magic," said my dad. "Rabbits in a hat are magic," said Robin. "I would put Krispy Kreme donuts in the music category, said my dad. How about the smell of a new baby? Asked my mom. Kitties are magic, Robin yelled. Indeed, said my dad, scratching Aretha's ear. And don't forget dogs. They were still going on at it when I shut the door. Excuse me. I love my mom and my dad, and usually my sister, but lately they'd really been getting on my nerves. Robin was a little kid, so of course she was annoying. She'd say things like, "What if a dog and a bird got married, Jackson?" Or sing Wheels on the Bus 3,000 times in a row. Or steal my skateboard and use it for a doll ambulance. The usual little sister stuff. My parents were more complicated. It's hard to explain, especially since I know this sounds like a good thing, but they were always looking on the bright side. Even when things were bad, and they'd been bad a lot. They joked. They acted silly. They pretended everything was fine. Sometimes I just wanted to be treated like a grown-up. I wanted to hear the truth, even if it wasn't a happy truth. I understood things. I knew way more than they thought I did. But my parents were optimists. They always looked at half a glass of water and figured it was half full, not half empty. Not me. Scientists can't afford to be optimists or pessimists. They just observe the world and see what it is. They look at a glass of water and measure 3.75 ounces or whatever, and that's the end of the discussion. Take my dad. When I was younger, he got sick. Really sick. He found out he has this disease called multiple sclerosis. Mostly he has good days, but sometimes he has bad ones, when it's hard to walk and he has to use a cane. When he learned he had MS, my dad acted like it was no big deal, even though he had to quit his job, which was building houses. He said he was tired of listening to hammering all day long. He said he'd want to hear fancy shoes instead of muddy ones. And then he wrote a song and called it The Muddy Shoes Blues. He said he might work from home, so he taped a sign on the bathroom door that said Office of Mr. Thomas Wade. My mom put a sign next to it that said, I'd rather be fishing. And that was that. Sometimes I just want to ask my parents if my dad is going to be okay, or why we don't always have enough food in the house, or why they've been arguing so much. Also, why I couldn't have been an only child. But I don't ask, not anymore. Last fall, we were at a neighborhood potluck dinner when Aretha ate a baby's disposable diaper. She had to spend 2 nights at the vet's until she pooped it out. Poop in, poop out, my dad said when we picked her up. It's the cycle of life. The cycle of life is expensive, my mom said, staring at the bill. Looks like rent's going to be late again this month. When we got to the car, I came right out and asked if we had enough money for stuff. My dad said not to worry, that we were just a little financially challenged. He said sometimes it's hard to plan for everything, unless you have a crystal ball and can see the future. But if I knew someone with a crystal ball, he would love to borrow it. My mom said something about winning the lottery, and my dad said if we won the lottery, could he please get a Ferrari? And she said, how about a Jaguar? And then I could tell they wanted to change the subject. I didn't ask any more hard questions after that. Somehow, I just knew my parents didn't want to give me hard answers. So we learned a little bit of the backstory of why it's been difficult. Dad had to quit his job in construction because he got multiple sclerosis, which made him weak sometimes and made it difficult for him to walk. So that helps to allow us to understand their situation and how they got that way.